So it's good?
That makes absolutely zero sense.
It really does. It really does make no sense. So we'll probably start
It's like wiping before you poop.
Sometimes you should do that though.
Why?
It's that kind of heat where you hide your plane right off the shitter into the sink.
Okay, this is the content that the YouTube listeners get that nobody else does.
There you go.
How do y'all feel about wet wipes?
I'm indifferent.
I find it extremely unman-cardish to have a wet wipe.
All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything, we'll go ahead and get started. And most of the stuff I wanted to talk about, we're going to talk about during the show anyway. So we shall get started. Let's see. Here we go. Well, all right. Bite Me Podcast on the air again, July 25th, 2023. It's hot, but you know what? It's not as hot as it's been, which is, I guess, where we are right now. We'll take 93 degrees. At least that's what it was where I am. I'm John Lopez. That is Captain Scott Knoll. Over there is Captain Dean Thomas, and right there in his studio is Captain Caleb McCumber. Got a brand new prop, it looks like. We'll ask him about that in a second. But this is the Bite Me Podcast, and we are on every week without fail. And we will answer all your questions if you're listening to us live here, watching us live here on the YouTube channel. If you are not, we appreciate you subscribing anywhere you get your podcast, iTunes, Spotify, you know the drill. Wherever there's a podcast, the Bite Me Podcast is going to be on the air. And the group page. Group page is always a good place to get these topics on Facebook. Just search Bite Me Fishing or Bite Me, and you'll find most likely the podcast. So let's dig in, man. Let's get right in. What was the deal with that prop, first of all, Caleb? You going to go faster than ever?
It's a good prop. It's tough to tear them up. They got great hole shot, and they get better fuel mileage because there's very little slip in them. But I was delivering that one to Compton.
Okay. But you're gonna get one?
I have two right now. I had those.
Oh, you do have that one.
Yeah, I had those things back when they were just welded together, and people would walk by and go, "What in the redneck is that?" And I say, "That's Chuck McKinney. You have to know him to understand."
That is a redneck.
You have two, or you had two because one's left on the Lower Laguna Madre somewhere.
That one didn't get left. That was a Mercury Max 5. That thing's about twice as expensive as that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose so many, just lose track of which ones you got, which you've lost.
Well, see, you need to get your facts straight, Scott, because you're referring to the one I left in the Lower Laguna Madre last year. The one we left this year was not in the Lower Laguna. It was more like in the Copano area.
There you go. So we're going to cover a lot today. Tarpon, is it happening? Obviously, we got a bunch of guys that can help us with that. Stepping out of your comfort zone. I got a hilarious story. Well, hilarious to me. We'll see what the guys say about it because it's only been like going on 38 years I've been married, and I found something out about my wife, which is interesting. Rigging, straight from the Bite Me group page, and certainly moon phases and how early is early. This is a discussion we've had off air, but we're going to start with story time, and quite the stories. Actually, speaking of props and lower units, let's start with that one. And I know Scott and Caleb are going to have some similar stories, but so Dean and I we fished, I guess, near shore, technically, right off the jetties on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, I was with Dean, and Sunday I was on my boat, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But the topic is big boat, small brain. And it's so funny. You know, a lot of people, hey, shout out to you. Good for you for getting those big old offshore boats. A lot of people would love to have them. You've got them. Good for you. But there is something to be discussed here that can maybe help and be a part of the discussion here on the Bite Me podcast. But I'll tell the second story first, and that is I'm trolling along in some probably 45, 50 feet of water, going across probably, I guess, about a half mile, maybe a little more, off the jetties, trying to get a kingfish or a jack or something like that, and just trolling along. And here comes this $800,000 million boat just barreling. I mean, barreling out the jetties with a lot of boat traffic. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just Dean and I. It was a lot of boat traffic kind of there doing the summer deal, and just barreling out much faster than anybody else. I'm a good half mile or more away from him, and I see him coming, and I start like, okay, well, I better get across here because he's coming in our direction. And lo and behold, he keeps coming, doesn't veer off. So I goose it, and I tell my wife, hold on, and I'm going from 5 or 6 miles an hour to 15 or 18 miles an hour. He keeps coming. I start waving at him. I start doing the thing with my hand, the line's right here, Of course, the nose of his boat is way up. He keeps coming. I'm trying to get out of his way. And then I start waving my hands, both my hands, like stop or whatever, or move. Lo and behold, there goes the drag on my rod and the reel, and just it just goes all the way out. My wife turns around and says, "We have one? We got one?" I said, kinda have one. This dude just took the bait and the line. What was that? 400 yards, Dean? Probably real schooled on that?
He wrapped up about 400 yards of 50-pound braid. spooled it to the bottom,
and snap, there it goes. And I'm going, like, at this point I'm probably going like 18, 20 miles an hour trying to get out of the way. And some of these guys, I don't know if it's eye on the water, I don't know if it's ignorance, I don't know if it's not enough training, which is what we're gonna, or experience, or asking the right questions. That's going to be the topic part of this. And I putter up to Dean because I was using his rod, and I said,
"Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry, I'll replace the lure." Go ahead.
I loaned it out about the line, and he came back with empty spool. But yeah, man, I mean, that dude was taking off to wherever, and who knows how far that went. I mean, that's not good for the seals when it wraps up that kind of line on that thing. But man, out there at the jetties, it's kind of, it's big boat rules. It's kind of, they have no respect for the little boats. I don't know if sometimes they just think they're trying to teach the little boats a lesson, and just, if you're going to be out here playing this game, you're going to have to play along. But yeah, that was ridiculous, totally uncalled for. And then when you're that far outside the jetties, you're not in a lane, you're not blocking a lane. There's like 360 degrees of options. And he chose one option.
The other thing,
was he outboards?
Was he where?
Was he what?
Was he on outboards, or was he inboard engine?
Outboards.
I think it was 3 or 4 outboards. You're cutting out again, Scott, and I don't want to have to edit you out. So you're going to have to maybe just go with the regular speakers or something.
Yeah, it was outboards. It was a big center console.
Big center console. And Caleb, I don't know if you have a story similar to this, but for me, the thing that, and we have people inshore, near shore, et cetera, that listen to us. It's like everything else. Common sense, baby. Just common sense. And maybe you can avoid some of that stuff and not have people shaking their fist at you like we were.
I like to think that I think that I give people the credit that they just don't know any better. I've been fighting fish kind of out in the area that, like, you and Dean are talking about, and I've had people drive up right beside my boat just to watch us fight a fish, but they've driven over the line to get there. I think they just don't know any better. I would hate to think they do know any better, because at that point, now we've got a problem.
And so, speaking of not knowing any better, that was the second incident we had. So there was a tanker coming through the jetties, a large tanker. And so this boat is, it was like a little cuddy cabin. And he's coming down the channel, and he's cutting in front of the tanker. Tanker starts blowing his horn, and we turn around. We're like, man, what's going on? This dude goes right in front of the bow of this tanker, and the dude's blowing his horn. Then he comes past that. Then he comes straight at us. I had lines out that I was trolling. He runs up so close to the back of me and John that we're having a conversation with this dude, and his wife actually was speaking for him, which was kind of crazy. I don't even know how the conversation started, but I was like, we have lines out, and I was pointing at him to go to the other side, and his wife starts, I don't remember what she said, but he starts telling me, I can't back up. He's like, I can't back up. It's like, put the damn thing in reverse. It will back up. I mean,
it was dead flat. It was dead flat.
And then we watched him after that scenario pass us, and he goes straight into a second tanker right towards the bow, outside the jetties, outside the second buoy, where he had 360 degrees of options.
You said his wife was talking for him?
Yeah. He had wife and kids on. There was wife and kids on the boat.
Maybe he was just done.
And so that goes to what Caleb said. You just have to think he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
No, he knew what he was doing. He was just done. And he's just pulling out in front of the tanker.
We knew he was dumb.
Was that while the Astros were down 9-6, or was it during the comeback?
No, this was on the weekend, man. This was on the weekend. That was a hell of a game. Another one today. I'm going tomorrow.
I've got tickets tonight. Anybody want to go? I got 3 extra tickets.
Oh wow!
Dang.
I can't. I got to edit the podcast because of numbskulls.
I was underneath my lawnmower last night when they got up 3 runs, and I almost reached over and just kicked a jack stand out from under it, ended it all.
But Scott, John just said there was a Mayak that got swamped and flipped last week from an offshore boat, and FG says that there needs to be a boater's license. I don't know if I'd go that far, but man, just a boater safety course, the basics of a boater safety course, and that's avoided, Scott. I mean that at least you know who has right of way, passage, all that stuff.
Well, a tanker always has a right of way.
That's what I mean.
That's
what I mean. You learn that sailboats over boats, tankers over all boats.
Do you really need?
Well, apparently you do.
I mean,
yeah.
It seems pretty self-explanatory. The big boat has right of way. He can't stop.
Yeah, and he can't change course very easily either. But it sparked my interest for the podcast just because we have so many listeners, and a lot of them are watching us live right now, and then so many thousands that listen every week. It's really not that hard. It's kind of an I own the water kind of thing. And the sad thing to me, Dean, it's every day. That was just 2 days of our little lives, but there's something going on like that every day.
It's more of a weekend thing. For whatever reason, it's congested. You have more people that have less experience, and it puts a lot of those guys in a smaller area. So, it's Saturday rules, man. Saturday rules are free for all.
I've been out the last 2 days, 0 problems.
Yeah.
Did not witness anybody having any problems. No, didn't see anything stupid happen in the last 2 days. But go out there on a Saturday. That's part of why I don't fish on Saturdays anymore.
Yeah, well, a lot of us that are on and listen to this podcast, that's the thing. Just take a boater safety course. You can do it online.
The weekend challenge.
You can learn a lot. The weekend challenge. That's us. So, Caleb, I was kind of wondering. You just said that you've been out there a little bit. What's been going on in your neck of the woods? I want to start there before I get into the tarpon because it seems like something's happening with them here in the last few days.
Well, I've been out there in Mexico myself, but
I saw that.
But my man says that the artificial fishing for trout's been pretty stinking good on the Middle Coast. He even tried to talk me into go wading, if you can believe that. Like, I just got back from vacation, man. I don't need to go wading and need another vacation. What are we talking about right now? But and then I get home and it's blowing like 5, and I'm excited about it. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go out, shoot some video this week, do this, do that, and then it's 15 to 20 the rest of the week.
The forecast was interesting the last 4 or 5 days. On like the wind forecast has been really sketchy. Like you'll see 15 to 20, then you get out there and it's 5. You'll see 5 to 10, and you get out there and it's 25. I know that happens a lot, but it seems like lately it's been really, really wild, Dean.
It's been all over the place. It's crazy over the weekend. We had great weather for that jetty and that near shore fishing, which the weekenders don't deserve that. I'm always like, why? Why does this happen?
What are you doing?
And I like them to struggle.
You realize who most of our listeners are, right?
I like them to struggle.
You realize who our listeners are.
Yes, of course. But yeah, it's been kind of all over the place. Today, it was kind of back in the middle. It was a lovely breeze on the flats. We stayed on the grass beds today, and the wind was just enough to keep you cooled off, create a little current. And it's hard to admit it because I kind of chuckled when you said that it's cooler where you are. But I think it was a little more pleasant today. Or if I'm just getting used to 100 degrees, if it's 96, that's pleasant compared to what it has been. But man, fishing has been good. I don't know what the uptick is. The water temperature is the same. The redfish were insane on the flats today. I mean, early morning for the first 2 hours, it was just nonstop action. After 10 o'clock, it kind of slowed down for me. But yep, as soon as you left town, they went crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Of course you did. And you're talking about the weekend challenge like that. You know what? I'm gonna jump around a little bit because you just reminded me when you said that about. I'm gonna get into tarpon in a second and ask you guys about that. But you reminded me. Another topic here is your comfort zone, because I learned something this weekend that, and Scott, you always talk about this, so I'm going to start with you about the benefits of stepping out of your comfort zone and trying different things. You guys know me. I love catching trout and redfish, whatever. Love bay fishing. Love it. Absolutely love it. Do a little bit of other stuff. Started kayaking again after about 10 years. But so my wife has never really been into fishing. Ever. She'll get on a kayak with a net or just get on a kayak to sightsee and all that stuff. So it was flat, and I took her out on Sunday to try to go catch kingfish or whatever. She freaking loved it. Like, loved it. So I'm like, where did this come from? She says, that's my kind of fishing. You sit there, you watch the rod, you chat, you listen to music. Because you can listen to music out there, it's a little more pleasant experience. I don't listen to music when I'm bay fishing for obvious reasons. I don't like that noise, all over shallow water and all that stuff. And so we get back Sunday evening. Monday morning, Scott, Jan tells me, when are we going to be able to do that again? I was like, what? We've been married 37 years. She has not once asked to go fishing. She's gone with me and sat there and read a book, and I'm bay fishing or whatever. She's gone with me on some other trips, whatever, inside the jetties or something like that. That has never, ever, ever asked to go fishing. Less than 12 hours after we got home, she's like, I kind of want to do that again. When are we going to do that again? I mean, I got to get out of my comfort zone more, because I really have never taken her near shore fishing. Whenever I've gone, it's been Sabine or Matagorda, and you got to go many miles out. This was like half mile outside the jetties, dead calm, beautiful blue water. She's like, I want to do that again.
She wants to go trolling all the time. So John's fixing to get into some big money and have to buy a big boat and go trolling all the time. That's what it says.
No.
Oh, yeah.
He showed me his shopping list when he got home.
Oh my gosh!
Of his order form of all the things that
I got
was on his list.
I'll share it with you. I got my Amazon thing right here because of my damn wife and me. If I'm being honest, if I'm being honest. But no, I got a good enough boat. It's just
I didn't see anything on that list for her.
Well, she's going to end up picking. She bought a fishing license. Like we're going out to Jada. I said you better get a fishing license because you might have to pick up the rod, and I don't want to have any trouble with that.
If you want to put something for her on that list, add a diamond tennis bracelet.
So I got the 100-pound leader wire. Here's the list right here. 8 of those diving Rapalas, the Magnums, 2 reels, 2 rods, the little wire cutter, and the wire trimmer and twister and all that stuff. 1,500 yards of line. I'm like, holy smokes! Now I'm going to use this.
You know exactly what this tells me. You just screwed all the weekend guys.
Because all the ladies?
No, because you're fixing to have wind the rest of the year.
Yeah, this is true. It's going to shut down in September. But comfort zone, man. I've been married 37 years. She's never asked to go fishing before. And I tried something new, and she was all about it.
Well, maybe not. Okay, I'll leave that alone.
Okay, I try something new here and there. No, come on, don't sell me short. We're talking about fishing now. We're talking about fish. Every once in a while, you're like, "Hey, what about?" No, just kidding.
He got a new feather. He put a new feather duster on that list as well.
That's right.
Chet told me a while back he's looking at doing a new boat in the next year or so. It's going to be a twin engine and all that stuff. So who knows, man?
Why are you spending my money too? That's my wife's job.
Yeah, get that big offshore boat now. Got a good stereo on it. The problem probably is, I saw a meme the other day that fits this pretty well probably. It said, all these years I thought I had to be quiet while I was fishing, and now I just realized my dad just didn't want to listen to me. So you've been telling her she had to be quiet all this time while she's out there fishing, and she didn't like that. And now she can talk. She wants to go.
And it is seasonal, but the beauty of this is
Caleb, you look like you're chomping at the bit here,
man. Yeah, the opportunity is short. You get like 2 or 3 months of this action, but we're out there in flatboats playing the big game action. So it doesn't require a big boat. It doesn't require 2 motors. It's a crazy opportunity that presents itself at this time of year. So you don't have to go crazy on a lot of money to get into that big game action. It cracks me up because we're sitting at the end of the jetties and we're catching 40-inch kingfish, and these guys are headed 40 miles out with 4 motors headed for the horizon to go catch except for the snapper. You can't get the snapper where we're at, but the Jack Crevalle and the kingfish are quite entertaining.
Caleb, you look like you've been chomping at the bit to jump in on this.
Oh no, there's a lot of stuff I could have said, but I didn't. I will say that the day that I found out that my wife doesn't like fishing and she gets seasick is the day that I decided she was the one to marry.
There is that, but
we were riding like 100-foot ferry across a bay for 10 minutes in Mexico, and she was sick the rest of the night off of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep, she's that one.
See, you get away. And I had been getting away, but now she's like the water, the music, the sitting and watching a rod just trolling along. She goes, I can do that. When are we doing that again?
Let's do it. Wait, I've had several times, like kind of like Dean said, I took the kids out and we ran to the horizon and didn't catch a stinking thing, and then came back into the jetties and caught a bunch of big kings and all kinds of stuff. And I did the same thing, man. I got excited, and I had Laguna building me trolling rods. And then about the time they got done with the trolling rods, we had caught some jigging. So I had them make me jigging rods, and I got offshore reels, and I got all kinds of offshore lures, and it's all in the same dang box that I got it whenever I got it there. Because it's like Dean said, you get a couple of 3-4 days a year to do it, but we just don't have the equipment to use the equipment.
Yeah. Well, but there is also, Caleb, since we got you here on this, you've been kind of an example of getting out of your comfort zone, and all of a sudden you're polling, and you're in a smaller skiff. So there is like the kind of the news and information that our listeners can try something different, man. I've tried a bunch, and I've gone near shore and offshore a bunch, but never with her.
Yeah, I think everybody, you fish enough, you figure out the part that you really like. And don't get me wrong, I really like going offshore, but I like it enough to go with my buddies that have the stuff. But I figured out that what I was doing in my big boat, I could do that I enjoyed to do. I could do it better in a little boat, and that's just kind of the evolution of the fisherman, right?
Go ahead, Scott.
That's why I like this General. I mean, I've had it out the last 2 days. It hasn't been ice cream, it's been a little choppy, but we've been all up and down the beachfront and felt perfectly comfortable. Everybody was fine. Well, I had one getting sick on me today, but other than that, everybody felt fine.
Yeah. What were the waves today?
They were maybe like 1 to 2s, an occasional 2+, but they were real close together. So it was a little choppy.
Yeah.
And everything was fine until we stopped. We found a bunch of bait and stopped to start throwing lures, and then that's always when it gets somebody. Because you start sitting sideways to the waves. You're drifting in there, and that if somebody's going to get sick, that's when they get sick. Once we started back up, she was fine. As long as we were running and looking, everything was good. But that it never fails. I see the same thing over and over again. And honestly, I think it's a little more mental on that than it is anything else, because it happens so quick.
Yeah,
that they, as soon as they feel it, then they can't get away from it.
Start questioning yourself. Am I getting sick? And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. And I got all the tips. Today it was watch the cows on the beach, because there was cows walking down the beach. Just you gotta pick something. Quit looking down. quit looking at your phone. Quit looking down. Quit looking at the water. Just look at the horizon. Look at the beach. We were literally 150 yards off the beach. So it wasn't like we were way offshore where you've got nothing to look at and you're just looking back and forth and wobbling all over the place. You can get a.
And when you slow down and the boat is rocking in that motion, you're more likely to get that feeling. When you're trolling and you're moving forward constantly, you're less likely to get that seasick feeling when you're trolling, when the boat stops and it rocks. And for the listeners that want to try this, I mean, we talked a little bit about John's, what he's fixing to buy and stuff. I mean, I keep a small arsenal that it's not that far out of range. It's a Penn Battle rod and reel combo, a 6000 series spinner, spooled up with 40 or 50 pound braid. Get about a dozen Rapalas, the CD11. It's a sinker with a metal bill on it. It's a real rugged lure that handles the kingfish. Anywhere from 60 to 100 pound wire. And I mean, I keep 4 rigs ready to go for that. So it's not a large investment. It's not too crazy. And, you don't want to go and break the bank for something that you're going to do 2 or 3 months out of the year. And then you have to wait for the right day to actually, I mean, it's not straight 3 months, but you get a lot of days mixed in. But, without breaking the bank, you can say you can do it with 2 rods. You have a backup. I troll one at a time. You don't have to put out a big spread. And for the light tackle, when that kingfish hits, you have to chase it. You have to turn the boat. You don't want 2 or 3 lines out the back that you're going to have to pull in before you can start chasing the fish that you have hooked up. So I troll one at a time, and without spending too much money, you can have what you need and get into that action. So,
well, I can tell you, I bought two of those Penn battles. Each one was $169 on Amazon. I bought the 100-pound leader that I'm going to twist up. I think I got it right here. It wasn't outrageous. 8 of those Rapalas.
Now that was outrageous.
That was outrageous. I think those were $14, something like that.
What?
That sound right?
No, those are like $28 a piece.
Maybe it's more. And as much as I'm going to try to glove them. I did get a gaff just in case there's something we want to keep. And then the line. It's really, now that's not cheap, but it's not outrageous.
John's about to learn the lesson that if you're prepared to catch something out there, you're not going to catch anything.
You think I'm just learning that? You think I'm just learning that?
You want to see 20 acres of tarpon? Roll out there with some trout rods.
Yeah,
take some tarpon rods out there and see what you see.
Hey, I've been learning that. I learned that lesson 45 years ago, and it hadn't changed. But Caleb, I did want to ask you, like, I don't know how much you've gone near shore with clients, but I know Scott and Dean are going to jump in on this. How do you handle that when one of your clients is just not feeling it, is sick, whatever, hot? How do you guys handle that? I'll start with you, Caleb.
I told Delaney to suck it up and quit complaining. Is what I did.
Poor Delaney.
I said, I don't care if you're 7 months pregnant, have morning sickness, and you're seasick. Shut up. We're fishing. And that's exactly how it went.
You know what? It was a big mistake. It was a big mistake asking Caleb this first, because you talk more crap to your clients than any guy. I was telling Dean this the other day because Dean was laughing at me. I missed a hookup on a topwater. He just buckles over laughing. And he goes, I only laugh at my friends, not at my clients. I said, well, you should see Caleb with his client. You bleep off those guys. You bleep them off. I mean, like when they make a mistake or something.
I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with your terminology there, but I mean, everybody's all about that personal connection, and I like to get personal. I don't know what the problem is. No,
you suck, you bleep hole, you this and that. Nah, I've been with you. I've been around you with your client.
I don't say it like that. Like if you
really you say it in a funny way.
If you really dig into metaphors and stuff, maybe I said that. Nah, but I mean the thing is I'm prepared to take it right back. And and if you watch my Facebook, most of them do. They just feel all right with giving it right on back.
They did today. Dean, how about you? You and then Scott, go because I'm sure you've had that experience.
I do. The one time that I will kind of be critical in a constructive, humorous way.
No, I meant like someone's sick or something, but go ahead and finish that point.
Oh, well, it's funny because whenever somebody tells me that they want to fish with bait casters and they after they put the third one in the rack because they're all backlashed so bad you can't pick it out, it starts to get a little harsh at that point. I actually fished with someone, I don't remember who, and I shouldn't say any names even if I remembered it, but that had fished with Caleb, and they did mention that he was a little critical on some of their habits. But I really don't have any problem. I've never had anybody get seasick on the boat, not in the bay. And when I'm out at the jetties, it's always trolling. I never really sit still. I've never really had a problem with that. But if you are out there, the one that's always worked, if you're even way offshore and there's no horizon, you pick a cloud or something, even the horizon, something stable to focus on. If you're looking down in the boat, if you lose sight of everything and your mind cannot comprehend what your body is doing, that's when you get that queasy feeling. So if you catch it before you start to get bad and you look at the horizon or a cloud or anything that's stable, you can shake it off. But some people just have a problem with that. Some people instantly get it. You know, they get car sick. They get it's just an easy trigger for some, and some can go out and toss on the ocean all day and never get a funny feeling.
Scott.
Happened to me this morning. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what got me thinking about it.
Yeah, she was trying to tough it out, and so we picked up, and it wasn't working. So I just picked up and moved a little bit, and just kind of make an excuse and say, I don't want them to feel bad, worse about stopping everybody else from fishing. So I said, hey, we're going to go check and see if we can find some more fish down a little further. I think I see some birds working down there, whatever, and just give her a little break, and then just picked up and moved on down a little ways. There were fish further down, and there were birds working, so I wasn't lying or anything. But where we were at was good too. It was just, go ahead and pick it up. I've had ones where I had a young kid out there last year, year before, that he was miserable. It just wasn't working at all, and he had all his older cousins with him, and I told them, I said, hang on, we're just going to run back in. And the thing is, you're not that far out. It's not like we're running 30 miles offshore. And so I just jumped up. We took about a 30, 45-minute break. I ran back to the dock, dropped him off with his mom, and turned around, ran right back out there, and we got right back to it. I had an old boy from East Texas. He tried to go out with me on a beachfront trip for like 3 years, and he had the bad weather luck. He had a tropical storm blow up. We had southwest winds. We tried everything. Finally, everything came together. He was so excited. He came down from, I think it was Longview, comes down, gets on the boat. And it was not rough. It wasn't anything. It was nice and calm, long, slow rollers. And dude got sick as could be, and said, I've never even put a line in the water, and said, you just got to take me back, man. I can't do this. And so his 3 years of anticipation,
oh my gosh,
ended without anything. And you got to play it by ear. You got to see how bad they are. Are they getting over it? Some people throw up once and they're done, and it's better. It's what they ate that morning. They ate a greasy breakfast or whatever, and it's getting to them. Some folks just don't ever get over it. Once it hits, they're not going to get over it until they put feet on the ground.
My experience has been, it's not so much the day as the night before. Even if you just have a few beers and just kind of whatever, a little buzz working, and you skip breakfast, you might be done. You might be done. Get something in your stomach early. Watch out the night before, and plan on having all the beer you want, after you go fishing. I think the night before gets a lot of people, and skipping breakfast. That you have to eat breakfast. That's the number one thing for me.
I keep peanut butter crackers in my pocket. When I start feeling a little weird, I'll eat some of those.
Yeah.
I think the sleep thing is a big part of it, because a lot of people that have gotten sick, it's not even so much about partying the night before as it is they get down here and they're excited and they all stay up, and they stay up too late. They're meeting with people they're not all coming together, and they all meet up down here. Maybe they have a couple beers, but it's not like they got plowed or anything.
Yeah,
they just stayed up too late and got excited about the fishing trip and only got 3 hours sleep, 4 hours sleep. I found those people that didn't get enough sleep are real susceptible to it.
One little thing, and I've been really lucky. It's been, and I don't go a lot like you guys, but I really haven't gotten sick since I was a kid on a boat. But one thing that always seems to work for me, just me, take it for what you will, watermelon on a boat just seems to be refreshing. Yep. It's filling. It's something that if I'm going to go offshore, not like what we did, but like offshore, I always bring watermelon. Yeah. So you're nodding your head, Scott.
Yep. Cantaloupe, watermelon, orange slices.
Fruit. Watermelon makes me happy no matter where I'm at.
Yeah, that's true too. Hey, just putting a bow on this. Dean, this is hilarious because I'm still marveling that my wife, after 37 years of, I don't want to go. All of a sudden wants to go 12 hours later. She goes, did you notice that I didn't even, she likes peanut butter with banana sandwiches. She goes, did you notice I didn't even put bananas on my peanut butter sandwich? She didn't want to have any bananas on the boat.
Oh, nice.
I was like, yes, I noticed that. Very good.
Bringing the karma.
Well, the karma didn't work too much that day, but we did catch some fish, just not offshore. Want to get into the tarpon. I teased that at the very top of the show, so I don't want to just kick it down the road too far. But right here, got to mention Wade Wright, who's going to be at the Bite Me Feeding Frenzy. You guys, you're spending my money. Fortunately, we got some great partners that are helping us with all the food. We've got a lot of people that have RSVP'd. Wade Wright's going to be there. I think Tim might have a conflict, but Jason's going to be there. And right now, if you want to get that Bite Me combo, if you want to go get all set up for your waiting, the Bite Me combo, use that Bite Me 20 promo, and you get 20% off right there. And I got a story about Port Isabel I want to ask you guys about. So start thinking about Port Isabel because that reminded me. But let's talk tarpon. And is it happening? I mean, Dean, you were pointing out a couple places where you actually went over there to see if there were any tarpon. Is it happening right now? We've had a lot of wind. We've had some funky weather.
No,
it's
happening
a whole lot.
No, I mean, it's the peak season. It's going to happen now in spite of the weather, in spite of everything. I've seen them. I've seen the schools. We don't really target them. I watch them kind of roll and greyhounding around the tip ends of the jetties. And occasionally, we'll take a couple of spinning rods with the plastics and cast at them. But if you want to go and put the effort in, I got a couple buddies of mine that are just, they're working them over daily right now, but they get tarpon fever. It's the only thing they can think about this time of year. And so they really focus on it. And the opportunity is absolutely there if you want to. And, when the wind is calm, you go around the tip end of that jetty and you just start in the surf zone. And between the North Jetty and the Cedar Bayou, that's kind of, I don't want to say automatic, but on a daily basis, when the conditions are right, you can spot them there.
Before we get to Caleb Scott, what are you seeing? It looks like you were looking a lot this week.
Yeah, we hooked up 3 yesterday, so yeah, it's happening. We were just getting into them today. It was a weird window on the bite. There was nothing early. Absolutely nothing. And then we were messing around, and all of a sudden I found some bait, and the bait started coming to the top. And it was kind of strange. If you're going to go tarpon fishing, get ready to catch some gaff tops. It sounds weird, but gaff tops eat the same lures and they're in the same places. And typically when I start catching gaff tops, I know we're fixing to get into it. It's about to happen. And sure enough, we started off on the gaff top train, and then the bait started coming to the top, started flipping around. A couple tarpon rolled here and there. A couple of schools came up top, and then we started hooking up tarpon. And just as fast as we started them, they turned off, and the jacks showed up, the jacks and the sharks. I don't know if the sharks ran the tarpon off or what happened exactly there, but all of a sudden we were covered up in jacks and tarpon. We had big jacks. We had a 30-pound pair of 30-pounders doubled up, and then we had a 30-pounder that got turned into about a 20-pounder by a big bull shark. And then I had to do the hand grab on that 30-pounder that was 20s now, and his whole tail end's missing, and he's shooting blood all over the place. And I'm hanging over the side of the boat to grab that. I got to grab it by the gills and flip it in the boat to get the lure out. And this 8-foot, 7-foot bull shark is just kind of lurking, and about 5-6 feet down. It's just kind of hanging out, just waiting for me to stick my hands over the side of the boat. And I'm looking under the edge of the boat and watching where, make sure that he didn't have a buddy. Sure, he did have a buddy. There was another one that was lurking real close by. And so I popped that that DOA bait buster popped it loose out of his mouth and let him sink. And
well, not for long.
Yeah, I'm sure he got eaten up. And but we got a picture of it, and I heard back from that guy's mom and dad. She's like, yeah, he was really he was 14. She said he's really proud of that picture. He thought it was the coolest picture ever, holding up that jack with the whole back end of it missing. And so anyway, it's happening. It's and it's fun. Yeah, you just got to be patient. But we went back out today. I took the kids yesterday, took the parents today, and it was starting the same way. Just getting the jacks or getting the gaff tops were getting started. The bait was coming up top. Saw a couple of tarpon roll, and that's when we had to come in due to the illness.
Yeah.
And
so Caleb, we're hearing things like plastics, rigging, rolling when it comes to tarpon. I'm going to get to Dean and Scott because admittedly they have a lot more experience with this, but I know you've been out there some and you've done this. When you talk plastics, what are they? When you talk rigging, what is it? When you talk about rolling tarpon, what does that look like?
The rolling tarpon looks like the biggest form of aggravation you could ever possibly have. Plastics, big white ones with wiggly tails, DOA bait busters. I'll let you know what works really good. I'm fishing with Scott in the next day or two, and I'll let you know what we throw when we go out there and what the success rate is on that.
Yeah, but how do you rig it? Just like a regular plastic, just a bigger one?
Well, you got coon pops. You got the I'm in over my head here, Scott. John.
No, I wanted to get because you've been out there. I'm going to get to Dean and Scott.
But when we have done it, whenever I've got to do it, it's been a coon pop with a big squiggle-tailed plastic on it, and the coon pop is essentially a weight rigged to a hook that whenever the tarpon starts shaking his head, that weight will break off, and you don't have the weight that's pulling against keeping your tarpon hooked.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. That's a different, and I'll have Dean kind of describe the setup because I know our listeners are like, I want to do that. But Dean, I didn't really know. Scott told me a long time ago, and I never really targeted tarpon, what a rolling tarpon looked like until I saw it, and I was like, that had to be, to the point where I called Scott. I said, I just saw this. It looked like a mirror. It was doing this and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, yep, that was a tarpon. So explain to our listeners that are really just, they've got the boat. They know how to navigate. They've been out near shore, never really targeted tarpon. How that weight thing works. Maybe we'll do a little video, or we can, I can cut up this video if you want to show us and put it on the group page. And then what a tarpon looks like when you're out there.
And well, there's a lot of variety in their behavior. Just like I said a minute ago, you'll see them greyhounding where they're moving, and you'll see them. It kind of appears like they're rolling, but they're not feeding. They're moving. And when they're really moving fast and you see them greyhounding where they're just kind of, the whole school will come up to the surface and you'll see all of the backs of them rolling. Those are really hard to catch. When they slow down and you see them kind of twisting around and looking up at the surface and going much slower, then they're more likely to get hooked. And, a classic, if you want to go out there, for whatever reason, they like purple flies, purple paddle tails. The DOA bait buster's always been a classic for the tarpon. The purple with a white paddle tail and a jig head, even a 1/4 ounce jig head. But you got to use fluorocarbon leader. They can be kind of picky on seeing things. But you want to have really sharp hooks. It's very important. If you don't have an ultra sharp hook, they're going to hit that thing and it's not going to stick them. So there's no skin. It's just bone inside the mouth. So it's hard to get a good hookup without a very, very sharp hook. Tarpon, they look up to feed. They want to see something above their eyes. And if it's above them and it's dropping slowly in front of their face, they will pick it up. So the presentation can really be critical. But you'll see schools of them that are on the move along the beachfront, and they're really hard to catch when they have places to go, when they're on the move. But when you see them slow down, kind of spinning around and doing kind of backtracking in their position more than just going in one direction, you're more likely to get them to hit.
Now, Scott, let's talk about the approach. I really wanted to dig into this because a lot of people have been interested and we haven't talked about it in a while. You see the tarpon, you see the behavior that you want, like Dean just described. How do you manage your boat, your casts, getting in front of them the right way when they are so athletic and fast?
There's so much to read as you're out there. The situations vary greatly. If they're right on the rocks, they're running up and down the jetties, I like to just sit still, get in position, spot lock with my trolling motor and let them come to me. It's easier to let them come to you than it is for you to go try to get in front of them. It just got to be patient, let them come work their way to you. On the open beachfront, there's such a variety. They may be in the first gut, right up against the sand. A lot of times they're right on the third bar. Then they may be 100 yards out, and then tomorrow they may be 5 miles out. It varies so dadgum much. And the deeper the water they're in, the harder they are to catch, in my opinion. That's when you really get into the coon popping and slow rolling, slow trolling. A lot of my friends do that. I have a hard time doing it. It doesn't appeal to me. I want to sight cast to them. The coon pop will work sight casting, but it's generally made for slow rolling and trolling and jigging. Like if they're at the jetties hanging off in the deeper water, you find them on your depth finder. You can jig them up that way. The ones on the beachfront, if they're not moving real fast, the ones that are cooking, like Dean was talking about, I kind of parallel them and kind of get a judge of how fast they actually are going, because it's kind of deceptive. You can look at them going across in front of you and think, oh, they're not going that fast. Then you get along beside them and you realize, man, these things are moving. If they're going 5-6 knots, you're not going to catch those fish ever. I don't care what you do, how you set up. I've done it a million times. Go run way ahead of them, get in front of them, shut down, use a trolling motor to get in position, let them come right by you, and everybody cast, and the fish just separate and go around you and keep trucking. When they got someplace to be, you can't catch them. Now, if they start doing that hanging out on top, I'll shut down 50 to 100 yards away. The shallower the water, the further away I want to shut down, jump on the trolling motor and run the trolling motor over to where they're feeding and see what they're doing exactly. If they're spinning in circles, the ones we had yesterday, they were all actually just kind of laying on top. It was really odd looking. That's not something we get a whole lot here. They get it more in Florida. These fish were in a big wad, and I'm talking big wad, and they were just kind of lazy on top. And all we were seeing was just a little fin. That top fin is that long, skinny fin. We'd see it kind of break the surface every now and then, kind of like tailing redfish, and they weren't moving. They weren't going anywhere. Those are fun fish because now I can slip up on them real nice and quiet and do it in such a way that I'm not, just running helter-skelter all over the place trying to get in front of them. Then there's also just blind casting. You got in an area where the school was, and that they were in that area, drop the trolling motor in and just throw towards the bait. The bait fish start schooling up and getting tight to the top. There's some big fish underneath them. Could be jacks, could be tarpon, and just start kind of blind casting around. Had 11-year-old on the boat yesterday. He hooked one just like that in that same manner, throwing a purple DOA bait buster. And I had to grab him by the back of the shorts so he didn't get pulled in the water. It was funny. Little dude was like, oh no. He got run all the way around the boat. He started on the front end of the boat, went down the side of the boat, went to the back, across the back, back up the other side, and it broke him off. But that's something else. 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leaders. That's something we didn't mention. If you don't do that, you're not going to stay hooked up. They're going to break you off. They just chew right through it. There's a button. We always talk about where they're hard mouths. They've got some soft spots in there. If you're trying to set the hook and you're hitting one of the hard spots, even the sharpest hook in the box is probably not going to stick it. But if you've got a hook, if you get it off to the sides in that meaty part of the jaw hinge, that's my favorite. If it'll go in there, it stays better. And they can throw it, after an extended fight, it kind of wobbles free, kind of like a trout, kind of opens up the hole a little bit the more they fight. And eventually they can throw that. There's a button, what they call the button in the top of their mouth. There's a soft spot right in the roof of their mouth. If you're hooked up there, it's going to stay. You're not breaking that one loose. I mean, it's not going to come undone. The only problem with that one is now you've got the lure is completely in their mouth and your line is on their lips, and their lips are like sandpaper. And the longer you fight them, that's what happened to us yesterday. One of them chewed right through 60-pound line. It was just all rubbed up and finally just cut through. You get on the bigger ones, you want the 80-pound. If they start getting up to 120 and plus, you got to get the 80-pound fluorocarbon. You're just going to fight them on anything lighter.
All right, let's get to the bays. Caleb, I'm going to start with you here. And this came straight from the group page. And FG just messaged us. Shout out to the people from Knock and Tail. They were super friendly at the expo. I'm glad he texted that because it reminded me. I was talking, trading text with Mike O'Krolick from Knock and Tail. He was down at that South Texas Sportsman show. Ran into just a ton of listeners. Just a ton of listeners. He was impressed that the reach of the podcast has gone that far. Now, all three of you guys have fished down there in the Port Isabel area. And this was just a straight request from that show, Caleb, about Port Isabel. And, how is the approach, the fishing, the tactics different for you down there? I'm going to start with you. I know you've been up and down the coast, but the Port Isabel, we had a request from a listener, like, okay, we're a little bit different down here, the whole style, and then I'll get to Dean. But what would you answer that if you said, all right, I'm not fishing Middle Coast, I'm not fishing Upper Coast, I am in Port Isabel. What do the captains think about the best approaches down here? How would you answer that? I know that's a broad question.
If you're fishing for redfish and sight fishing, you have to see them a little bit sooner and catch them a little bit further away from their boat is something I noticed, because I fished down there 2 or 3 days last week, and I did notice that if you let them get close to it, they were a lot more spooky. Trout fishing, we fished more the drop offs near a deeper channel, the grass beds that are near that, and that seems to go pretty well. And then you go right back to what Dean was talking about last week, because believe it or not, last week was the first show in a long time I thought I'm going to listen to it even though I wasn't there, and I did. And when Dean said, well, I just drift a bunch of miles and hope I catch one, that's pretty dang accurate information. I'm
not familiar with that.
Yeah, the color patterns I use down there is a little bit different. I'll go with something that's a little bit more natural, or even the red and white. But I did notice that in that cleaner water, those fish will get spookier the closer you get to them. And then the trout fishing, it was more consistent down there really for me over the past year or two, versus Matagorda, where maybe they're there, maybe they're not. We're going to have to spot hop a lot. We could almost catch something everywhere we stopped, but the thing it all had in common was we were near some deeper water over grass.
Now, Dean, you can probably relate to this a little more. So what are you talking about down there? A lot of white, a lot of drifting, and casting distance to me is kind of the key, because of what Caleb just said. When they see you, you got no shot, or what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's very similar to what I do here in Aransas Pass. I mean, there's a lot of grass beds, long drifts. I use the same approach in that area. South Bay, which is this nice little corner, which is the one spot that I usually run to. And when I'm down there, I'm usually fishing with somebody else also. It's not often that I take my boat down there and go explore on my own. So I usually jump on with somebody else. And South Bay is a really cool spot. Not a large, expansive area. I mean, it's still pretty wide open, but I just relate the same tactics down there to here. You know, pull up to a shoreline, drift out, top waters and soft plastics, just
lighter
rolling.
colors.
Same colors. I mean, I stick with the same stuff. Something darker, chartreuse tail. The one that I've been having a lot of luck with here lately has been that bone diamond. It's just a white, sparkly, the paddle tail or the rat tail. I've been throwing both of those a lot the last couple weeks. And I mean, when I was in South Padre about 6 weeks ago, the speckled trout that I caught, and I didn't put a lot of effort into that. I was down there for a couple days for the Dargle Owners Tournament, and they had a demo boat that I went out in and fished about 6 hours one day, and I was throwing that white paddle tail and just drifting the grass beds. And with my little bit of experience down there, I didn't have, it's one of those deals, you know, when you go to somewhere you haven't been, you're not going to a spot that you have your utmost confidence in. It's like, I'm going to go take my shots and see what happens, and kind of just sticking with classic techniques paid off with some fish. So I really don't shift gears a lot for that area.
Scott, unless you have something to add there, I was going to go to the boat ramp confessional because, this, and I'll start with Caleb on this, unless you have something, Scott.
Just long drifts. I spent a lot of time wading down there and wading all around the spoil banks. That kind of gets overlooked. It's a little softer. Everybody goes to the hard areas, want to wade on the good hard stuff. But the spoil banks down there, don't sleep on those.
Just got to know how to wade.
Water.
Just got to be careful with the wading.
Yeah, it's soft. It's some softer stuff, and there's definitely a lot of stingrays there. But those spoil banks, they drain right off into that deeper intercoastal, and this time of year, it's really good to fish the edges of that.
All right, so we have a rigging question we'll have to push to next week. A moon phase question we'll have to push to next week. Because I don't know, I'm going to start with you on this.
This is why we don't look at the rundown.
Exactly.
Hey, we did most of the rundown. I just like to be thorough.
We don't know that we did most of the rundown. You only know that.
This is true. This is true. You're like, you mean there's more?
There's a rundown?
There's a rundown. There is a rundown. Caleb, I'm going to start with you on this. I have a feeling that because you're Caleb, you're going to have a very insightful thought and advice for this loyal listener. And the way he started his boat ramp confessional is, I think, very telling. The first thing he said was, please don't use my name. So I said, well, this will be good. He said, please don't use my name because her dad is a big listener. I was out in Port O'Connor with my girlfriend of nearly 2 years. Okay.
So what's his name?
Well, he's given so many clues right here. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. Dad.
Dads might be able to figure this one out. So she's gone with me before, but not too often. I made the mistake of following, and I know Scott's going to have something to say about this. I made the mistake of following another boat through a cut, but I must not have been following him exactly right. I slowed down when I realized I was in trouble. But Scott's rubbing his face.
The boat slowed itself down when he got into trouble.
I slowed down when I realized I was in trouble, but it was too late. I got stuck, and the tide kept going out. By the time we both got out in the water trying to nudge the boat, it was stuck too bad. We finally got help, but between the tide and waiting for help, we were stuck for 3 hours. Now, here's where it gets interesting, and we need your advice, Caleb. She broke up with me before we got back to the ramp. He'd been dating this girl for almost 2 years. So he got stuck. She broke up with him before they got back to the ramp. And so then he goes, there was other stuff going on. I think he's just trying to make an excuse here. There was other stuff going on, but that was the last straw, I guess. Yep. And then this is my favorite part. Love the podcast. My next trip will be an open boat. Caleb?
Justin with his great insight he always has says sounds like they should both see other men.
That's the text of the year. That's the text of the year right there. Oh my gosh. There are so many elements to this. First of all, followed another boat through a cut. What?
There were things said while stuck that led to this.
Oh yeah. There's no question about that. This goes back to my you didn't empty the dishwasher theory. Like a lot of people, a lot of couples that have relationship troubles, like they'll get in a big fight over him not emptying the dishwasher. The reason they broke up is not him not emptying the dishwasher. Not emptying the dishwasher was like the last straw, the spark or whatever of all kinds of inherent things. So as much as he got stuck, getting stuck, I don't think was the final straw here. I think that was just like, okay. I mean, I think it was the final straw. It wasn't like the reason that they broke up because he got stuck. You know what I mean?
I feel like at some point he probably had her back there pushing too.
Yeah, he did. He said they were both in the water. And then they started, push harder. No, this way.
If you go back to the beginning of the show and get the sound bite where I said when I found out she doesn't like fishing, I decided she was the one to marry. Old Captain Caleb may be a little bit more of a forward thinker than you think he is. It's hard, whenever you start hitting that shallow stuff, it's hard to goose it and get out of it when there's another boat in front of you, ain't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So
it was the other boat's fault, is what I would have said.
Yeah.
Scott, I thought of you when he said, I followed another boat.
Dude, if you're going to follow another boat, you better make sure you have as skinny a running boat as they do or better. I mean, if you're going to follow another boat, you better check out what boat that is and have some confidence that you can run as shallow as them. Because as soon as that other boat figures out that you're following them, they may take you on a little bit of a ride. And,
there's a thing we do where
true.
we kind of nudge the guy beside us and go, watch this.
Yeah, hold on.
I mean, by we, not me, but I've heard some of my friends do that.
Yeah, same here.
We know it's you. You don't have to be coy. You don't have to be coy about that. And then Dean, there's so many parts of this that I was just dying laughing. The don't use my name and then tells you every detail of what happened. And then the best part for me though was they broke up before they got to the ramp. Like they were broken up on the boat.
Yeah, that had to be a pretty interesting ride back in.
I've seen some breakups at the boat ramp, over loading the boat and unloading the boat and those kind of things. I've seen that, but I've never actually seen a breakup out on the water. That's.
I wonder if she had to scream over the sound of the outboard, because when you're running in, you can't just have a casual conversation. It tends to be pretty loud. And, how much emphasis was on that.
Slash. She's doing the throat. Yeah. We're done.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I was picturing it though. She's pushing on the back end of the boat and he's pushing on the back. And they look over at each other across the motor and she goes, this just isn't working for me. Is that the way it goes? I'm just trying to picture how this went, At what point?
There's a guy at the office that doesn't like fishing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, this just isn't working out.
Taylor wanted to break up with Caleb when Caleb showered him down with a bunch of mud while they were stuck. So that was a cute. They were a cute couple and they broke up. So
I've had a couple of rough breakups on my boat.
Have you?
Oh yeah.
Well, no, tell the class.
Me and Daniel are just a straight up toxic relationship, but we keep.
Well, we knew that.
We keep making up.
I think you're the toxin. You're the toxin in that relationship.
Parkoff said.
And Daniel is just an enabler.
Parkoff said if they were following me, I would have turned around and picked her up. Just saying.
She's out there, but how about that? if
be
she
like, hey,
breaks up
baby, my boat runs shallower than his.
that's right. Or if they broke up and he said, fine, I'm going back by myself.
We were sitting in Daniel's seats at the Astro game in the front row, and anybody that's ever sat in first or second row, it doesn't matter if there are 2 people in the whole stadium. If you sit in either one of those, they're going to check your tickets, right?
Yeah.
It's about the 7th inning, and we're sitting there, and this dude and this pretty attractive blonde come and sit down behind us, and they make it about 5 minutes, and here comes the police, right? And they check their tickets, and Scott, you all right?
Yeah. Just read one of the comments. There's so many comments coming in, and I read one that's hilarious.
And so anyway, we're sitting there in our seats, and they come and check those people behind us, and no, you got to leave. And I kid you not, I turned around and looked at the girl. I was like, we've got an extra one here if you want to stay, but he's going to have to, he's out. I can, what if you stopped and did that to a dude and a girl that are stuck on a sandbar?
Oh, this poor guy. Yeah. He's got an open boat. He's got an open boat.
So anyway, that's our advice. Glad we can help.
I guess that's about as close to advice as we can get.
We kind of gave advice, kind of made fun of you, just roll with it. Oh, and here's more advice. When you start feeling yourself slowing down because you're in too shallow water, you hit the gas. You don't slow down.
Yeah.
I thought you would have learned that from this podcast by now.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 of the 4 of us on this screen know how to do that and speed up really good. I don't know that John would speed up. I think John is going to be one of the slow down guys.
Who, me?
The other 3 of us know as soon as you feel that tick, it's all hands on deck. Just
hey.
Since John wants to give me crap about being mean to my customers, which I'm not, I will make your name a verb. However, if you backlash enough times, every time somebody else backlash, I'm like, oh, look, he just Davided it over there. But I have seen John slow down and drop the trolling motor in this situation.
Oh, that's because you told me to come pick you up. Don't blame me for that. He goes, hey, we're in real shallow water and we don't want to walk back to the boat. Can you pick me up? So I was fine until I picked them up, took them to their boat, and then he goes, yeah, go that way. The typical Caleb. I'm like, so what's the best way to come out and get out of here? He goes, yeah, go that way. So I just kind of puttered out, got stuck. They laughed and laughed.
And that's when I nudged my buddy and said, watch this.
He doesn't know which way to go.
And so,
hey, man, go ahead.
The moral of this story is always blame the other boat.
Yeah.
This is true. Actually goes back to the very beginning. Blame the big boat that cut our line.
Exactly. Let's go back to the don't use my name.
I know.
What everybody on here is the dad who can't figure out that his daughter got stuck and broke up with her boy.
Well, stay tuned to the group page. Stay tuned to the group. Some dad's going to say, that was my stupid ex-daughter's boyfriend, my whatever it was.
The one I got to laughing about, there was so many messages coming through about this incident here, but then somebody else just threw in there, I once left the house with the ears still attached to the motor and drove through town drinking 100 foot of water hose.
Water hose. 100 feet of water hose. I did, full disclosure here, I guess it was not this past weekend. Last time I went down there, the tide was out and I was feeling it and I was going, and I had my son with me, my middle son, and I'm cruising along, go through a cut, and I looked down, and it was so shallow. I was going like 25, 30 miles an hour. It's so shallow. It kind of like just that little, you all know it, that little bump, that little whoop, and I just kind of goosed it forward. And BG, my son, goes, what was that? I go, oh, nothing. Oh, we're good. We're what? You heard something? I didn't hear anything. I check back and look at the prop. Yeah, we're good. We're good. All good.
Yeah, we were running around looking for redfish, and you could feel the boat kind of rising and popping. And I thought, man, that feels like we're running on rollers. And I looked down, and it wasn't. That was the bottom. That was not waves.
Yeah, it was about 3-4 inches. It was barely under. He goes, what was that? Nothing. No, we're good. Let's go catch some fish. What would Scott do? Speaking of which, what would Dean do? What would Caleb do? As usual, I look at the weather before the show, but I'm going to go ahead and start with Scott because he's kind of become the teacher's pet on this thing. He actually does look at weather in advance. Scott, What would you do, man? Another pretty good weekend, maybe a little breezy, but what are you looking at accomplishing?
It's so weird because right now we've got this weird wind at night, and then it calms down during the day. It's backwards. It's backwards season, and it's done it the last couple nights. And the problem with going to the beachfront, like I like to do, is the first thing in the morning, it's still bumpy from all the damn wind overnight, and the water's been a little off color early, but then it starts cleaning up a little bit. So I've got trips coming up, and I'm probably still going to go hit the beachfront. Still going to do that and make my runs, go out there, hit the beach, and see if I can find these tarpon again.
Dean, that sounds familiar. I texted you when I was leaving the marina on Sunday with my wife, and you said, it's still a little choppy. It's still a little choppy, not as smooth as yesterday. I got out there, it was as smooth as could be. So what he's talking about was happening down in our area as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's been windy at the crack of dawn, and then in the next hour or two, it has been going flat. I mean, I'm looking forward to the next couple of days. We went through a week or week and a half of some really slow bite, but today, man, those redfish went crazy. So I think we're back on the upswing, and I guess we're coming up on. This is like, are we coming up on the full moon? Does anybody know exactly where that is right now? Is this the week before the full moon?
I can tell you in a second here, but go ahead.
No,
but yeah, so I mean, it comes in spells. You go through a couple of tough days. Sometimes it stretches into a week or 7 or 8 days, and then you get back on the upswing. So, this morning was pretty amazing the way those reds were wanting to play. Even had one oversized this morning, about a 32-incher.
Now we're talking.
And I haven't had any upper slots on the flats in the last couple of weeks. Most of them have been 21, 20 and a half inches, right in that range. A bunch of rat reds, a lot of small fish. And this morning was just tearing it up with upper slots, 26s, just some beautiful redfish. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of days. I think the moon is coming around in our favor. The winds, and I don't know what you're looking at, and I'm pretty sure I'm on the Port Aransas forecast this week.
Pretty sure.
Instead of it's not hunting season, so I haven't been checking Garrett, Texas very often. But Saturday, and you can't trust the forecast that far out anyway. The weekend for me down here in the Port A is less than 5 miles an hour Saturday and Sunday morning. So that might be some kingfish trolling. If the flats stay on fire, we'll be doing that. The fact that the winds have calmed down, I'm back to hitting those drop-offs, the shorelines around Lydia Ann Channel, the quarantine shoreline outside of Trailer. And for the first time this week, we pulled up as an experiment on the outside of Lydia Ann Channel and put the pole down, just a random spot, and hit some nice speckled trout. Didn't put a lot of time into it. We fished about an hour and a half, and this was much later. This was on the way in. This was like from 11 to noon. We picked off some great speckled trout. So I was kind of wondering what it was going to be like there at the crack of dawn. But the problem is you can only be in one spot at the crack of dawn. You got to pick one. You got to be at the jetties for that action, on the flats for the redfish, or the drop-offs for the speckled trout. So kind of all three of those are great options for like the next 5 days.
So all of a sudden, my wife's going to nudge me at 3 a.m. and say, let's go. Let's go.
Exactly.
Let's go. How about you, Caleb? What's happening?
I think Pat and I are going to go wade shallow, mess around with that. I hope that's a good plan because that's what he's talked me into doing. But I think, wading shallow or early and drifting deeper later on in the morning ought to be a winning plan. Did we figure out what that moon phase was? My watch always tells me what it is.
Full moon on Sunday. I'm glad you asked that.
Full moon on Sunday.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're leading into that full moon. Monday and Tuesday probably suck, but up until Sunday it'd be all right. Yeah. I think we're going Monday.
Sunday's
great.
What I was talking about with the wind, Sunday's a perfect example of it. 15 to 20 at 1 a.m., 15 to 20 at 4 a.m. At 10 a.m., 1 gusting to 1.
Perfect. Perfect.
Sleep
All
late.
right, boys. Somebody said the top 10 episode ever. Just as a reminder, that's because our listeners and the questions and the poor bastard that lost his girl in the water. Hit our guys up. Don't forget about the feeding frenzy coming up. We're going to shut it down about a week before, 5 days before. Till then, have a great weekend. Catch them up. We will talk to you next time.
We should do the dating game next